Okay. So, hello, everyone. We're so glad that you're here today to join the New York State Justice Promoters for Women Religious Congregations in our advocacy webinar, Advocacy in Times Such as These. My name is Leanna Varga, and I work on the staff of the Dominican Sisters of Hope, based in Ossining, New York, where I support our sisters in a wide range of mission efforts, including, but not limited to, advocacy, and I represent the congregation in the New York State Justice Promoters group. If you are not familiar with the New York State Justice Promoters, we are representatives from various women religious congregations in New York, meeting on a monthly basis to talk about the issues that are happening at a state level and at a national level, and how we can work together within our congregations and across our congregations in making a difference. And one of our most trusted partner in this work is Network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice. And we have with us today Catherine Gillette, who is the senior, Catherine can wave to everybody, the senior grassroots mobilization organizer. And she works with all the New York State and some other states as well. But she joins us on a monthly basis, and we learn so much from her each time she is with us. And we also, from Network, have Sister Eilish McCullough, a sister of the Humility of Mary, and she also works for Network as their grassroots education and organizing coordinator. And she works specifically with congregations on teaching us how to do better advocacy and better organizing. So we're so grateful to have both of you here with us today. Before we get started with our opening prayer from Sister Susan McCarthy, we just wanted to say, this is an overused phrase, but we are really living in unprecedented times, and there is so much coming at us on a daily basis, on an hourly basis even, at the national level. And I think a lot of us have this feeling like, is there anything we can do to make a difference? Well, we're here today to say, yes, there is something that we can do, no matter who you are, where you are, if you can get out to a rally, or if you can write at home from your computer, or postcards written by hand. There is something for everybody to do. And our guides from Network will help us to see all of those options and to see what we can do to make a difference. So with that, we're going to start with our opening prayer, and then I'll turn it over to Catherine, who will give us an overview for this webinar. And we are recording it. Hope that's okay with everybody, because we want to share it with you afterwards so that you can continue to spread the word in your congregation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sister Susan McCarthy, who will lead us in our opening prayer.
God of wind and flame, on this day, stir again in your people the courage to speak truth, the humility to listen across difference, and the love to build a church where no one is pushed to the margins. We pray for all who are seeking justice, organizers, advocates, faith communities, neighbors, and all who refuse to give up on liberation, healing, and repair. Let your spirit move through our voices, our organizing, our worship, and our resistance, so that the good news of Jesus becomes liberation for the oppressed, welcome for the excluded, healing for the wounded, and hope for a world still waiting to breathe freely. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Susan. And now, Catherine.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Leanna, for that warm welcome. And thank you, Sister Susan, for that beautiful opening prayer. I have to confess, I was not familiar with that one until you shared it with me a couple of days ago, and I've already used it for 2 team meetings. Very, very powerful stuff, and just really grateful for you sharing it. It is a joy to be here with everyone. My name is Catherine Gillette, and I am the Senior Grassroots Mobilization Organizer with Network. I have been with Network for over 9 years now, so hopefully my name sounds a little familiar to all of you. And I have to say, it is really a joy to see so many familiar names and familiar faces here today. That said, if we have not connected yet, I would love to connect with you. We have a lot of really exciting work coming up, especially related to the election, and we would love to engage you on some of that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Today I'm here with my colleague, Sister Eilish McCullough. Sister Eilish, I don't know if you want to say hi real quick.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It is so great to be with you today, to see some familiar faces on the Zoom screen. I'm a sister of the Humility of Mary, and I have been at Network for almost 6 full years now.
Yeah, and so we're just really, really excited to be here and to share this with you all. Just a quick outline of how we're going to be spending our time together today. We've done our little gathering, welcome, opening prayer. We are going to have probably about 30 to 35 minutes for our presentation, and then 10 minutes for our discussion. And then for those who would like to stay on, we are going to have the opportunity to take action together. And so just a note, as Leanna mentioned, we are recording today's program, and I think we're going to be sharing it with everyone who registered. So if you want to take notes, you're welcome to do so, but you will also get the recording. And I think we can probably also share the slides with you if that would be helpful. So we'll make sure you get everything you need, because we are going to be throwing a lot of information at you and want to support you as much as we can. And at the end, we are going to have some time for Q&A if there's anything that comes up. All right, and so with that, I am going to turn it over to Sister Eilish.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. To start out today, I am tasked with giving you a short policy update. Now, as we know in DC, things move and change rapidly. So as we were logging on, I was checking sources because today, as we speak, the House is voting on a reconciliation bill, what we have been calling Budget Reconciliation 2.0. And that is to give almost 70 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars to immigration or ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and Border Patrol. So right as we were logging on, they passed a rule about it, and that is teeing up the final vote on this budget reconciliation package for that $70 billion. There is a slim chance that that vote could happen before we finish today at 4 o'clock. If not, we will definitely keep you up to date on that. The other piece that many congregations and across the country have been very interested in is the Farm Bill, because that includes some funding for SNAP. Right now, the Farm Bill is under discussion in the Senate. The committee chair is Senator Bozeman, and he really wants to move this bill forward. But Senator Amy Klobuchar has made it clear that if this option is on the table, it will not be supported by and large because it does not include assistance to small family farms. It does not include funding for SNAP. It does not include the things that we as women religious prioritize in the name of social justice and mission. So Democrats are looking for a 2-year extension of the Farm Bill, seeing where that might shake out. Republicans are a little different. Just to name, we are nearing the end of this, of the time that Congress is in session before they go out on recess. So it's a toss-up to whether we will see a vote on the Farm Bill before they do, but we do have an action alert for the Farm Bill on our website that we invite you to take action on. Next slide. And so I just talked a little bit about immigration and the Farm Bill. I know you've all taken action with us around voting rights and democracy, Medicaid, maybe climate or environmental issues. But I wanted to take just a few minutes to share what some of our issue areas are this year. Right now, we are working on an economy for all. And what do we mean by that? We mean that we are looking at legislation that includes paid leave and livable wages. Affordable housing. So you may have heard us talk about the 21st Century Road to Housing Act this past year. We're looking at healthcare and food for all. Welcoming neighborhoods. So that's where people are safe, where immigrants are welcomed into neighborhoods. Clean air and water. A just tax code. A humane immigration system. And I think so often the most important thing is a politics by the people. We often talk about how we, the people, it is on us to bring what is happening in our communities to our members of Congress, to share about what we are seeing on the ground, and to let that inform the work that we do. Slide. And so at Network, so often we talk about advocacy. We talk about what you can do to make sure that we have a just and humane immigration system, or a farm bill that supports local farmers, or access to Medicaid or SNAP or WIC for the most vulnerable among us. And as I was just telling my own congregation in a meeting just before this, when we talk about doing advocacy, I want to make it clear, and Catherine always makes this clear too, that everyone can do something. Some of us might be people who call our senators or our representatives. And, there's a sister in my community who is 102, and every week she calls her representative. And she's now on a first name basis with the staffer in his office. And she calls and they chat. You can call your DC offices or the local and district offices. Um, you might be someone who sends emails, and we always say make sure you're personalizing that message, because it's that personal story that really gets the message across, and make sure that the staffer is reading it. You might be someone who's writing a letter to the editor to talk about how maybe cuts to SNAP are impacting your community, or how in changes to voting rights or ID laws at polling locations, how that's impacting your community. And we'll talk about this a little later, but it's always important to include your name on that. Some of us are people who we always put our name on a statement or a letter that comes around. We want to make sure, I see that, oh, Sister Eilish McCullough signed on to this, or another sister in my community. One of the most important things, and I say this as also someone who is on my justice committee for my congregation, is sharing community statements with one another. When, the Dominican Sisters of Hope, if you put out a congregational statement and you share it with the rest of us, that is really powerful because it encourages other communities to then do the same and gives a great model of how to phrase things like that. Others I know are really big fans of leading up to elections or get out the vote efforts, to sending postcards to reminding people across the country when the deadline to register to vote is, or when early voting starts in their communities. Everyone can do something. And there's, for the 6 things we listed here, there's probably another dozen more that you are already doing in your community. And we also want to hear from you about ideas that you all have that we might not have been able to mention. Slide. You can also, share on social media. We love when you tag Network in posts and we can lift them up. I think on our grassroots mobilization team that Catherine and I are on, we celebrate all of the posts from all of your congregations. It is something that gives us great joy every day to see. Other people might attend a town hall, whether in person or on the phone. You might sign up for updates, from your member of Congress. You might get weekly emails. Share them with us. We love to know what your senators and representative are saying about certain issues. And we know that so many of you are so good about hosting your members of Congress, meeting with them, Zoom meetings at their office, inviting them to your own community. These are all things that you all have the power and opportunity to do. Slide. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that out of all of these things for advocacy that you can do, that prayer is the most powerful thing. We can all individually pray for our elected officials, their staff members. Um, we can pray ahead of something happening on the Hill. Maybe you have members in your congregation who are going to an event. Maybe they're going to a No Kings rally, or they're going to a vigil outside of a detention center or Delaney Hall or somewhere. One of the things my congregation does every week, there's a group that goes to pray outside of one of the two local detention centers. And at our mother house, they host a communal blessing for those who are attending. And then they have the opportunity to pray together in the chapel, and that's what this picture is from. Um, you can hold a time of prayer during the event so everyone has the opportunity to feel connected if they so choose. And public prayer vigils are incredibly powerful. They're a great way to build community, a great way to build interfaith events, to meet new friends, and to reconnect with people that you might have taught or worked with years and years ago. Um, I can't say enough that as we talk about public witness on the next slide, that those public prayer vigils and prayer in your own congregations is the most important thing and what grounds all of the work we do. Slide. Um, and next, I know that so many of you, this is kind of um, things that you've heard already, but the importance of attending rallies or vigils or press conferences or other public actions. The picture on the top, which is probably pretty small on your screen, is a great pop-up event that Leanna helped organize in New York 17. And it was an accountability event around reconciliation. You can make posters or fold zines. We have the Sisters of Charity of New York in the picture on the bottom left. And then we have pictures from congregations in Ohio are the other two pictures. And their sisters in all of these made signs for the other members in their congregation to take to events. That's another way to just find ways and creative ways to include everyone. And there's always, or hopefully almost always, opportunities to join virtually. And I just want to note, share your photos. It is a great way to give us, I think, as someone in Washington, D.C., seeing your photos is a great reminder that there's people across the country who care about this, who are with us in it. And when things are really crazy here, we know, oh, there's sisters in New York, there's sisters on Long Island, Ohio, North Dakota, across the country, who are also out there with us. So when you're thinking about how do you show up at some of these events, some of these public witness events, one of the things that we always talk about at Network and what you see on our signs, and I'm sorry I don't have one that I can kind of hold up right now, is to convey your affiliation, whether it's putting Network on a sign or your parish or your congregation. Again, in my community, we have shirts that on the back say uphold the US Constitution. And on the front have our congregation logo and part of our mission statement, bringing more abundant life. And that's something, so we are conveying who we are when we show up at events. It is really important that your signs and your messages that you carry um, convey your faith and your values clearly. It is so important to show what we support, what we stand for, even sometimes more importantly than what we are standing against. And always think about how you will be perceived by those who agree with you at events and also by those who disagree with you. You know, what are the opportunities for conversation, for dialogue, with other people who are at the events that you're attending? And then on this last slide for me, these are just samples of some of our signs that we've recently created. Um, Catholics for Healthcare for All, Protecting SNAP is Holy Work, Human Dignity Has No Borders. And these signs are all available on our network website. You can click on the link. We'll make sure that's in all of the follow-up information, and you can print them out on different. We have them kind of sized for different sized papers so you can make bigger signs, and also so you can share them on social media as well. And I'll now pass it back to Catherine.
Thank you very much, Sister Eilish. So I am here to give you some more pro tips because we want your advocacy to be as strategic and as effective as possible. And so we have some friends at an organization called the Congressional Management Foundation, and they conduct research with staffers on the Hill, with members of Congress about what works really, really well and what maybe doesn't work as well. And so they've shared some information with us, and we wanted to share it with you because we know that there is a gap between the information that offices really want to get and the information that offices actually receive. And so we want to make sure the offices are getting the information they need. So it is really, really helpful for you when you reach out to an office to tell them about the impact of a bill on a state or a district. And this is oftentimes information that Network can help provide. We work with a lot of different partners and they generate a lot of data related to local impact. And so we are always happy to share that information with you and encourage you to share it with your elected officials. So if there is a bill, a policy being considered that might cut SNAP or healthcare or something like that, we can get you the information about how your particular state or district would be impacted, how many folks would lose benefits, how many folks would be harmed or helped by a particular policy. Offices also want to hear a constituent's reasons for supporting or opposing a bill. Now, this may sound obvious, but we actually hear that oftentimes people are not sharing this information with the Hill, and they need to be. So your reasoning could be a faith message, it could be a moral message, it could be a personal story, it could be your personal expertise or your background. Whatever the reason for supporting or opposing a bill, we do encourage you to share that with the Hill. We also encourage you to make a clear ask. What is the policy? How do you want them to vote? It is good to call your members of Congress and say, we want you to support our immigrant neighbors. It is even better to call them and tell them what that means. To say, we want you to vote no on the budget reconciliation bill that we gave $70 billion to ICE and Customs and Border Patrol for increased detention and deportations. So it really, really helps when you have a specific policy and when you have a specific vote recommendation. Vote yes, vote no, here's the bill number. Try to be as specific as possible. They do also want to hear your personal stories. And these can be from the past. Maybe you served as a public school teacher or a public health nurse for 40 plus years, and you can speak to that experience. Or maybe it's more recent. Perhaps someone from your parish or a staff member providing care to your community would be impacted by a immigration policy under review. Maybe one of your congregation's ministries has shared about the impact of SNAP cuts or healthcare cuts on the community that they serve. All of these stories are really, really valuable, and your members of Congress want to hear them. And I'll just add, it is not unheard of for a member of Congress to receive a story from a network supporter and then to turn around and share that story on the floor with all their other fellow members of Congress, because they know, just like we know, that stories are powerful. We also encourage you to be creative. Recently, Network participated in a paper doll campaign related to immigration. Folks decorated paper dolls and wrote messages on them, either opposing family detention, opposing family separation. This may look familiar because some of our New York congregations participated in this campaign. And I think everyone would agree it was a pretty simple project, but it was creative enough to get the office's attention. Offices get cards and postcards and letters all the time, and those are really important. You better believe they are reading them. However, it's also really fun to think about how you can be a little extra creative to get their attention. I was reminded recently of another activity that one of our teams did where they were opposing cuts to SNAP, to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And so they wrote their messages and drew little pictures on paper plates and delivered the paper plates to the office. And that definitely got their attention as well. So we do encourage you to think outside of the box and think about how you can be creative in your advocacy and have fun with it. All right, so I shared a little bit about this before, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail. We know that offices are hungry for stories, right? Policy discussions oftentimes include a lot of facts and figures, and these are important to have. As I pointed out before, offices want to know about the particular impact on their state or on their district. However, at the same time, we know that stories are often much more memorable than just data alone. And we really want to bring lived experiences into policy discussions. Policy discussions can be kind of abstract, and stories can make them much more tangible and much more memorable. It also really helps people to feel connected to an issue. It is one thing to vote for SNAP cuts when it's just a line item in a budget. It's an entirely different thing when you hear that those cuts are going to cause Tom and Diane and their 3 kids under the age of 10 to all go hungry. And so again, those stories are really, really powerful. And then finally, I think that most of us would agree that many elected officials, both Democrats and Republicans, seem a little bit distanced from the issues sometimes. And they really need to hear stories about what is happening in their communities and how policies can either help or harm their neighbors. And we have the opportunity to shine a little bit of that light and to lift up some of those stories. And so I would certainly encourage you to incorporate stories into your advocacy. Now, as I mentioned, I have been at Network for over 9 years now. And in all of that time, I think one of the questions, or maybe 2 of the questions that I get the most are, do I still need to contact my member of Congress if they always agree with me? Or do I need to contact my member of Congress if they never seem to agree with me? And spoiler, the answer is yes. Please, please, please always contact your member of Congress. It is really important. But I wanted to share a little bit as to why it's important, just because people tend to ask this question a lot. So, if you find that your member of Congress is somebody who seems to agree with you all the time, still reach out to them, still contact them, because touches build relationships and relationships are powerful. You want your members of Congress and their staff to know who you are. You want them to see you as a trusted messenger. When you are calling them up, you want them to know you by the first name, just like the sister and Sister Eilish's community. You want to have that relationship with the staff and with the office. It's also important to note that you can bring a new angle, a new perspective, a new issue to the offices. And my favorite example of this is funding the US Census. And so funding the US Census is really important because we want to make sure that everybody is counted. And to do that well, it requires money. And so several years ago, long before the census was actually taking place, our Virginia advocates brought the topic of funding the US Census to both of their senators and said, we need you to pay attention to this. We think this is important. We want to see you championing this issue. And the staffers just kind of looked at them and said, what are you talking about? This is not something that's on our radar. We didn't realize this was important. But they sat there, they had a good conversation, and they learned about why funding the US Census is so important. And you know what? They went from not knowing anything about the issue to having both of their senators really champion that issue. And so that was in part because of our advocates bringing the information to them and letting them know about it. It's also important to name that members of Congress have to make really hard choices about priorities, and you want them to know what your priorities are. And also, you want them to know where you think they should be spending their time and providing leadership. Because just like all of us, they can't do everything, and they have to make choices, and you want them to choose the things that matter most to you. As I mentioned before, they are also hungry for stories. And so being in communication is an opportunity to provide them with stories. It is also an opportunity to gather some intel for network. As Sister Eilish mentioned before, it is actually really helpful to our government relations team for you all to share your updates. What is your member of Congress sending to you and or saying to you on the phone? And then sharing that with us so we can share it with our government relations team. They want to know what the offices are telling their constituents. And so that only happens if you're in communication with them. And we really benefit from that information. It is also valuable to share your faith perspective. It's important for members of Congress to know that people of faith really care about an issue, are paying attention to an issue, and holding them accountable on an issue. And this is especially important if members of if there are people advocating on the other side of the faith, on the other side of the issue. I think about with the ACA, it was the Catholic sisters getting involved and supporting the ACA that helped it to pass. And so it is really, really, really important for members of Congress to hear from people of faith and to know that people of faith are engaged and care about an issue. And then lastly, you know, it is really hard to be a staffer for members of Congress, especially right now. Oftentimes, people are calling and maybe not being so nice to them on the phone or maybe not being so nice to them on email, and morale can be a little low. It is really, really powerful and valuable to just call and be your friendly, wonderful selves. It goes a long way for staff morale to hear that people appreciate them and support them and are grateful for all of their work. And so I do encourage you to kind of have those friendly encounters with the staff because it really does make a difference to them in their day-to-day work. So that's very, very valuable. A little ministry to the staffers, if you will. On the flip side, if you happen to be in an area where you feel like your member of Congress never agrees with you, I still encourage you to reach out, to be in a relationship, to keep trying, because as I mentioned before, relationships are really, really powerful. And it is possible to find common ground. One of my favorite examples of this was back in 2021. the network team hosted a virtual lobby day. It was on the Equal Act, which was legislation really focused on some disparities in the criminal legal system. But as part of our day of action, as part of our event, over 120 network advocates went on 50 lobby visits with both Democratic and Republican lawmakers. And in the days following that day of action, the Equal Act gained 10 new co-sponsors, 3 of whom were Republicans and 7 of whom were Democrats. And so don't give up. Your member of Congress might surprise you. They might sign on to something that you weren't expecting, and that is a joy. That is wonderful. Again, it is also an opportunity to gather some intel for network. It's helpful for our government relations team to get this information, to know what the members of Congress are saying to their constituents. It's an opportunity to share stories. It's an opportunity to share your faith and your faith perspective on an issue. And again, we believe that change is possible. We believe that sometimes members of Congress change their minds. And my favorite example of this is with pre-existing conditions. When we were first talking about pre-existing conditions, not very many people were overly concerned. But then as there was more and more pressure, as there were more and more people engaged and advocating and calling and sharing stories, suddenly by the end of the fight, it sounded like everyone was saying, of course, we're going to protect pre-existing conditions. We have to protect pre-existing conditions. And that only happened because of advocacy. That happened because so many people reached out, so many people lift up the stories, and it really did make a difference. And then lastly, we are doing advocacy as people of faith, as people of hope. And so I think we have an extra special responsibility to stay in the work, to continue to work, and to recognize that the change we seek doesn't always happen overnight, but that we are really called to stay in a relationship and in deep relationship with our members of Congress, even if they don't always agree with us. So if you've ever found yourself wondering, okay, my member of Congress always agrees with me, do I still need to call? Or my member of Congress never agrees with me, do I still need to call? I hope you know that the answer is yes. Please, please, please keep calling, keep emailing, keep visiting. Alrighty, so I know we just threw a lot of information at you, but as I promised, we are going to make sure you get the recording and we are going to make sure that you get the slides. That said, we did want to open it up a little bit for some conversation, and we have a couple of discussion questions here that we were hoping to hear from you all. And so the first question is, what did you hear today that was helpful? The second question is, what are the challenges that you face when doing advocacy work with your community? And the third is, moving forward, what exciting opportunities do you see? And so I am gonna, let's see if I can pop those questions into the chat so that I can get rid of the shared screen and see all your faces and have some conversation.
I think I'm trying to do that as well. So hopefully we can.
Let's see, I've got it right here, ready to go.
Perfect.
So the questions are in the chat, and we would love to hear from you all a little bit about how does this land with you and what are your thoughts? And I think there's enough people on the screen that we can't see all your faces and we can't see all your hands. So if you can, there's a little react button at the bottom where you can hit the little heart and it'll give you a chance to raise your hand, digital hand, and that might help us to see you. But if not, we will just do our best to try to keep eyes on everybody.
Thank you so much, Catherine and Sister Eilish, for both the practical tips and the inspiration. Are there any questions?
Well, as Sister Eilish said, you all are definitely a source of inspiration for us. Getting all the updates, seeing all the photos, seeing all the statements, it is certainly inspiring for all of us in Washington, D.C. and beyond. All right, I think I see Sister Emily's hand. And Sister Emily, you're going to have to unmute. There we go.
Right. I heard a lot today, but what was encouraging for me, I don't do enough of making phone calls and doing emails. So, I mean, I'm hoping that I know I got encouraged to do it, and I hope that I follow that. Um, and now I have a list of the politician office holders, but I have to make sure that my list is good and that it's not terrible big effort, to go online and text or make phone calls. I have done that, but I think not enough. So, but this was encouraging for me. The other issue, there are just so many other issues you can get drowned. But just for you to tell us there were 80 some odd people on this, so we're not alone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see in the chat some appreciation for the insight about whether we should contact when we always agree or always disagree. And I think I saw Sister de Montfort. Did you have your hand up? Just unmute yourself. And
I just want to say that it has been an excellent presentation. And this weekend, Friday and Saturday, we are having an assembly. And at 4:30 in the afternoon, every other year, we give a peace award. This year, the peace award will be given to Kathy O'Leary. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Okay, Barbara, you know her, right? All right, well, we're giving that to her for all of the work that she does for First Friends of New Jersey and New York, for the detention center in Newark. And we can't say enough about what she has done. We are a small community, but in collaboration with the other Dominican sisters in the Northeast, we can do, a lot and more if we desire to do. But you've given us some good ideas. But remember us tomorrow because or Friday, it's going to be very special. And then we also are applying for a grant that will help Kathy carry on some of her work at the detention center. So,
Amen.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
yeah.
And I just want to add, I know it can feel a little isolating when you're making these calls or sending these emails. And I just want to remind folks that Network actually has a community of 99,000 people all across the country that you all are a part of.
Wow.
And that includes many sisters, that includes many Catholic folks and people of other Christian and non-Christian traditions. And so you are part of a much bigger effort, and that's just with a network. We also work with all kinds of ecumenical and multi-faith partners, as well as secular partners. And so it can feel a little isolating, but know that you're part of a much bigger effort.
That's a good point, Catherine. Thank you.
other insights or questions? Sister Emily, you have your hand up as well again. And would you like to unmute yourself again?
I spoke before, but the Leadership Conference of Women Religious just had a conference a month or more ago, and it was the justice promoter, a member of their team, and their communicator. And I would say the 3 or 4 days focused on when you are with people who do not agree with you, and the 5 points were made. One is tell me more when you're speaking to people who don't agree, and before you open your mouth, breathe in, take, before you, but that was part of what was just mentioned now.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Emily. I was also there and thought they were great tips for conversations.
Thank
I
you.
thought I recognized.
It looks like Stephanie has her hand up. Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, thank you. This was really helpful. I appreciate it. I'm the co-director of the Social Justice Institute at Caldwell University. So I really appreciated the sort of practical tips in terms of how to do that. And one of the challenges we often have is how do we engage the students? Because sometimes they come across as apathetic, but I think they're really just overwhelmed with not knowing where to start. So I really appreciate this. And I know you sort of talked about it being isolating at times. I could see really great opportunities for, postcard writing or things in a group to sort of build that community too. So we will definitely be utilizing some of that for our students.
Excellent. And at least I don't know if you were going to add, or we also have a Young Advocates Leadership Lab, the YALL program.
Oh, that's
We have a
great.
staffer who works specifically with high school and college students. And so there's lots of opportunities to engage with students and connect with other students all across the country.
As well as
Wonderful.
a fellowship for college
And a
students.
fellowship for college
Yeah.
students. Yeah.
And I see Dee's comment in the chat too about asking for if there's a go-to guide specifically for a federal call number for information about call numbers, etc. We don't have a go-to, like a go-to guide per se. We have the numbers on our on our action alert page. But I wrote that down because it could be something like a little graphic or something that would be real easy to share, or a one pager. So, great question. Stay tuned on
All right,
that
I
I
one.
think
see. Thank you, Sister Eilish. Sister Carol D'Angelo, you have your hand up.
So I'm just going to speak to Alicia. You used the phrase a few times, show up, how important it is to show up. And I couldn't help but think, because we specifically wanted to do this advocacy webinar for those who know they can't show up anymore at rallies. They can't be out there on the street, and can't even maybe go to the legislator's office. So what I appreciated from today's webinar, again, is that relationship angle and how important it could be just calling a legislator. But what I was thinking was, because even I, and those who know me are not going to believe this, I get nervous when I call. All right, I do get nervous. But what always amazes is me, you don't have to know that much about the bill. All you have to do is say the name of the bill, and if you happen to have the number, they're not going to ask any questions. You can give a reason, and you can say, because I'm a sister of charity, and a Catholic, and I really believe that we are all brothers and sisters to one another. And so what I would encourage myself to do, and all of us to do, is really to act on that, what we heard today, how important it is to call and develop a relationship with a staff member, because you're never going to get the legislator, you're going to get a staff member. And I always say, just want to let you know, these are hard days. I know issues are great and it's hard, in terms of policy making, but we're praying for you. And I do think, as one sister said to me yesterday at the convent, how important it is, because the sisters are praying, we're all praying,
Right.
but praying so much that even if we say to the staff member, we remembered you in our group prayer, or we had a special time this past week spent in focusing our intention on peace, on justice, on immigration. So just know we're including you in it. I think connecting that prayer with the call, I think that can't help but do something with whoever's listening on the other end. So again, thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Alicia.
Yeah. And just real quick, I mean, absolutely. I think about all in my community, the sisters who are back home at our mother house, who are not, out on the street corners anymore. And it's their prayer that keeps me going every day too. And I think, One of them, one said to me a couple weeks ago, for her, she said the most important thing is that I show up in prayer. And and that is how she's able to show up and to be present to what's going on, to whatever ability that she's able to. And that's, I think, most important.
And a couple of other things. I know you mentioned sometimes being a little intimidated about calling. I think a lot of people often feel that way, but I just want to remind everyone that the person answering the phone is not some wonky policy specialist. It is usually a 20-year-old intern, and there's a very good chance that you know much more about the issue than they do. So do not be intimidated. And as you pointed out, it's not like they're going to ask a whole bunch of questions. But that kind word and that mention of prayer can go a long way for staff morale. That moment of pastoral care can go a long way for staffers who have a really hard job and oftentimes spend a lot of their day getting yelled at by strangers. So
Great. I know, Sister Susan McCarthy, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important to me right now is the importance of voting, getting ready in November and helping people to be registered to vote and knowledgeable as much as possible. So I think that's something we all can be thinking about as well. I mean, it seems a long way away, but every month it gets closer and closer.
in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be sharing our election plans. And so stay tuned. There'll be lots of opportunities to engage. And we look forward to working with everyone. With that said, I think we want to go back to our slides because we're not quite done. We got one more slide and one more opportunity for folks, if I can find my screen again. Alrighty. So, Sister Eilish, I was sending her a quick message. It sounds like the vote that was mentioned earlier has not happened yet. And so for those of you who would like to participate, we do have, oh, there we go. We do have an opportunity for you all to take action. I know that, again, we threw a lot of information at you and it can be a little overwhelming. Sometimes it helps to just do one thing, to pick one thing that you're going to do right here today. And so in the spirit of that, we wanted to provide one opportunity for everybody to take action right now today. So if you would like to stay with us, you are welcome to stay with us and take action. Take out your cell phone. We will also share this information in a follow-up email if the vote hasn't happened by that point. As Sister Eilish shared, we are expecting a vote very, very, very soon. And so your calls are very, very, very timely. But we are going to encourage you to call that phone number on the screen. It is the switchboard for the Capitol, so you are going to need to know the name of your member of Congress on the House side, so your representative. And I believe Leanna is going to put a link in the chat. If you don't know off the top of your head who your representative is, there's a link that you can click and you just put in your zip code and they will tell you who your representative is. But if you call that number 202-224-3121, it'll connect you to the Capitol switchboard. You can say who you're trying to reach. They will connect you to that office. And then there is a script on the screen that we encourage you to use. Again, the vote that is happening would give $70 billion for immigration, detention, deportations, giving money to ICE and CBP. And that is not what we want. We want to fund programs that will help our communities, healthcare, housing, food. We do not want to fund programs like ICE and CBP that tear our communities apart. And so with the vote happening very, very soon, for those of you who'd like to stay and take action, I encourage you to do so and just have a moment of some shared advocacy together.
Great. Okay. So thank you, Catherine. And I'm going to put everybody on mute now so that we don't hear each other talking to our representatives. But stay in the Zoom. And then after we've all had a chance to talk, we can reconvene and kind of share notes on how it worked. So if you're able to stay with us, please do that. And I'll put us on mute now. If you have any issues or questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll try to respond to those as I see them. Okay, so go for it. Yes, hi. Can you connect me with Congressman?
What do you think happened to yours?
Looks like most folks are done with their calls.
Yes.
It does. It looks like we're having different experiences. Susan McCarthy is saying the person in the office seemed pleased to hear from her. Sister Carol D'Angelo got connected to the wrong representative.
So I'm
I
still
guess
trying.
switchboard operators are people too. They have technical difficulties just like the rest of us.
This is Doreen got connected to the wrong office too. I had
Oh,
to,
Jordan.
I
Okay.
had, I had to call a second time, but then I got directed to the right office to Paul Tonkos, and the young woman was happy to hear from me, and I assured her that Paul is in our prayers and our thoughts because he's always doing the right thing, so.
I just want to say that was such a great experience doing that together. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was great seeing everyone on the screen with their phones making calls.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Thank you all for taking action, and stay tuned because as we shared, the vote is probably going to be today, and so we are paying close attention and very grateful for everyone's advocacy.
I
Thank you.
found myself kind of like talking, and then at the end the lady just said, she sounded very young. I pictured that 20-something staffer. She just said, well, thank you very much, but I just need your phone number to confirm constituency. So I was like, I should have started with that. It would have saved me like 5 minutes.
So tonight is the deadline. What's the deadline? Because I have to go to another thing in 5 minutes.
So they're voting sometime this afternoon.
Okay. Well,
We don't know.
Whenever
right.
they get to it.
And
Yeah.
I'm getting out of here and calling right now.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Catherine.
for
And
Thank
Iris.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is
It was
Emily, and
wonderful.
I got through to my person, and I did my best to just chat a little bit after I made, the demand. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I'm
Okay.
so glad you got real live people. I left a voicemail. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, her name was Sam, and I happened to tell her that my brother's mother-in-law wanted to be called Sam because she didn't want to be called Grandma. So she's Susie's aged mother. Susie is my sister-in-law. So
I love
that
it.
was chatting away. All
I
right,
love it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
All kinds
everyone
of
for
ways
being
to
here.
connect. All right. Well, thank you all so much
Mhm.
for persisting and advocating and joining our call today. So we'll send you the link to the recording, and please feel free to forward it and help spread the word. Hopefully we'll have some good news to report on the legislation as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Leanna.
Good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.